Howdy, boys. This weekend we have UFC Fight Night Yan versus Figueiredo in China, and I'm here to give my thoughts, opinions, picks, and predictions on the card. The Americans are going to be down bad this week, having to stay up till 2 a.m., getting the same treatment as most Europeans do, having to watch UFC. I'm probably going to ingest a lethal amount of Red Bull to actually be able to stay conscious throughout the card, but we do what we gotta. I could just rewatch the card the next day, but I hate rewatching cards. I don't know why. It just doesn't hit the same as watching them live. So I refuse to do that and would rather be half conscious than rewatch it after it's aired. And also, probably not going to be the most in-depth picks that I've made, and probably will tank my pick percentage because I barely know half of the people on this card, and most casual fans probably don't either. There's like a stretch of 4 fights where I don't know either fighter. And so I'm pretty much going to be making my choices, pretty much going to be making my picks completely based off of record and opponents, because I've never seen half of these fuckers fight. So yeah, let's get into it. First fight on the card, Mahashate versus Nicholas Motta. I'm going with Mahashate. I do not trust Nicholas Motta's chin. He's not that diverse as a fighter. Mahashate is more composed, can mix it up a little bit. Neither of these guys have grappled at all in the UFC, I don't think. Like, their takedown averages are, zeroed out, and so are their subs. But I just think Mahashate is better on the feet and probably can mix it up if it needs be. Nicholas could KO Mahashate, but I just don't trust him, man. His best wins, or I guess his only wins, really, are Cameron Van Camp and Troy Nolan? Or is that Tom Nolan? I can't even remember. Tom Nolan. That's how you know his wins aren't good. I can't even remember the guys' names. They're bottom of the barrel. And really, Mahashate doesn't have that great of wins either. I think Steve Garcia is a better win than both Tom Nolan and Cameron Van Camp. And so yeah, I'm going with Mahashate. I just trust him more. Nicholas Motta has never impressed me. Second fight on the card, Xiaolong versus Kwong Lee. I'm going with Xiaolong. He's younger, has much more experience, and is a lot more active on the feet. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I don't know either of these guys really at all. I think Xiaolong was on road to the UFC or some shit. Yeah, that's about it. The only thing that makes me worried for the Xiaolong pick is that he has been KO'd 4 times in his career. But he also has, 35 fights? A lot more experience than Kwong Lee. So I'm going to trust in that and his youth. Third fight on the card, Loner Kavnaga versus Jose Ochoa. I'm going with Loner Kavnaga. Looked real good on the Contender Series. Dynamic, fast striking, KO power. Not much else to say. Haven't watched any of Jose Ochoa's clips. He's also quite the finisher himself. 100% finish rate. But looking through his record, it didn't seem like any of his opponents were worthy of note. So yeah, going with Kavnaga by, I guess, another first round finish. Fourth fight on the card, Naim Yargal Tumendembarrel, one of the craziest names I've ever seen in the UFC, versus Carlos Hernandez. Going with Tumendembarel, I do not think anything of Carlos Hernandez. I think he's kind of shit. Has no finishes, has no TKOs, and has been TKO'd himself. Don't know anything about Tumendembarel besides his name being quite badass, but looking at the statistics, he has a 4.4 significant strike land rate and a 4.6 takedown average and a 3.7 sub average. So I'm going with him. It seems that the potential for finish is much higher with Tumendembarel, but even with that, I'm going to say he gets it done by decision. Fifth fight on the card, Shi Ming versus Feng Zhaocan. I'm going with Feng. She's a sizable favorite at minus 340. 8 years younger, has a much higher significant strike land rate per minute, will mix in takedowns. She has no subs, but her ability to mix it up and the fact that she's quite a bit younger and more active on the feet, going with her. Sixth fight on the card, Kiru Sahara versus Dong-Hun Choi. Going with Dong-Hun Choi. He's undefeated, younger, and Kiru Sahara is an absolute frame bully at 5'10 in flyweight. I refuse to pick someone who's a fucking bully in any division besides Bully B. Otherwise, there's really not much to say about it. Don't know either of these guys, never looked at any of their fights, and I'm not going to. Dong Hun Choi by decision. He's not much of a finisher. Seventh fight on the card, Beijing Jay Lacey, probably pronouncing that wrong, versus Su Young Yu. I'm going with Beijing. He has a higher chance of finishing the fight, more submissions, more KOs, and he lands more on the feet. And that's all I'm basing it off of. I haven't watched any of their tape, not going to. Gonna say Beijing by late submission. Eighth fight and the opener of the main card, Zhang Mingyang versus Ozzy Diaz. I'm going with Mingyang. Dude can fucking crack, throws a crazy amount per minute. He has a 9.23 significant strike land rate per minute. He's younger. I think he's just more hungry than Ozzy Diaz. Going for a first round KO for Mingyang. Ninth fight on the card, Volkan Oezdemir versus Carlos Ulberg. I'm going with Carlos Ulberg by third round KO. I think Ulberg's going to be too technical on the feet. He has a height and reach advantage. And Oezdemir has reached 35 years old. I know he's only a year older than Ulberg, but he's officially in UNC category now. He's reached UNC status, and that does not bode well for him. Ulberg, not only being more technical, he lands at a higher percentage, more active, and even if it goes to the ground, I still think he's got the technical advantage there and more submission threat. Ulberg by third round finish. 10th fight on the card, Wang Kong versus Gabriela Fernandez. I'm going with Wang Kong by a TKO in the second round. She's faster, has a power advantage, reach advantage, she's a lot more active on the feet. She can take her down if need be, and she has good submissions. So I don't see anywhere that Gabriela has an advantage over Wang Kong, and I've never really been impressed with Gabriela. So yeah, Wang Kong, second round TKO. 11th fight on the card, Song Kanan versus Muslim Salikov. This is a pretty tough fight to pick, but I'm going to go with Muslim Salikov by a third round TKO. Both guys carry a lot of power in their shots, and they both have been chinned a fair amount of times. I think Song has a speed advantage and maybe a little bit more power, but I think Muslim Salikov is more accurate and a little more patient and diverse. So I'm going to go with him by a third round TKO, although I would not be surprised at all if Song Kanan pulls it off. 12th fight on the card in the co-main event, Yan Xiaonan versus Tabitha Ricci. I might be crazy for going with this pick, but I'm going to go with Tabitha Ricci by decision. I think she's just going to be able to hold Yan against the cage and eventually take her down and just smudge grapple her to a decision. Yan could KO her on the feet, but I don't know, I just have a weird feeling that Tabitha's going to kind of maul her on the ground. Could definitely be wrong though, but going with Tabitha by decision. And in the main event, Peter Yan versus Davison Figueiredo. This might not be the most hyped up event of the year, but this is certainly one of the most interesting matchups. I'm going with Davison Figueiredo. I don't know what he'll get it done by, but I have faith in Figgy. I think he'll bring that flyweight speed and skill. He's looked great at bantamweight so far, and Yan hasn't looked nearly as good as he did pre the Aljamain loss in the last couple of years. Not like he's looked that much worse, but he just hasn't looked as good. And he always takes off round one, everyone knows that, to download data. And I think Figgy's going to eventually kind of pull ahead. He'll be able to keep him honest with his power, and if it gets to the ground, he's dangerous as fuck with his submission game. So yeah, going with Figgy. Have no clue how he'll get it done, but I just have faith in him.